On a tight street circuit by the Caspian Sea, the championship shifted, not with the roar, but with the mistake. In Baku, Oscar Piastri endured a weekend that could define his season. A crash in qualifying, a jump start, a 5-second penalty, and then, before the race had even found its rhythm, it was over. But was this just a bad weekend, or was it something more? Because the pressure is no longer subtle, it's visible, it's growing, and it's coming from both sides. From one garage, there's Lando Norris, his McLaren teammate, still chasing, still waiting. And now, from the shadows, Max Verstappen, fresh off 2 consecutive wins, is quietly forcing his way back into the conversation. With 7 races and 3 sprint events remaining, every mistake now carries weight. Baku was chaotic for much of the grid, but nothing compared to Piastri's opening lap disaster. As the lights went out, he anticipated the start just a fraction too early. The anti-stall kicked in, the stewards reacted, 5 seconds. And then came turn 5. Caught in dirty air, carrying too much speed, the rear stepped out. The walls of Baku don't forgive hesitation. His race ended before it truly began. From that moment, the focus shifted to Norris. How much ground could he recover? How much would the gap shrink? For Piastri, there was relief, because Norris wasn't perfect either. A slow pit stop cost him 2 positions. He finished where he started, P7. What could have been a narrow 6-point margin heading into Singapore remained a comfortable 25-point lead. But comfort is temporary, because Max Verstappen is not done. The championship fight is still alive, and the last 2 races proved it. The Red Bull looks sharper, more predictable, more responsive. The 4-time world champion is beginning to look clinical again, and that's dangerous. There are 24 sprint points still available this season. In a title fight, that's not a detail, that's opportunity. If Baku revealed anything, it's that Piastri is not immune to pressure. Norris has often been criticized for failing to seize key moments. Now, for the first time, Oscar showed cracks of his own. He admitted it himself. "The crash was certainly not my finest moment," he said. "I anticipated the start too much. A silly, simple error. And with the crash, I didn't account for the dirty air the way I should have. I went into the corner too hot. The grip was low, but I should know that. I'm not blaming anyone but myself." Honest, direct, but costly. It's rare to see Piastri make 2 major mistakes in the same weekend, a qualifying crash, then an overeager launch followed by an amateurish entry into turn 5. For a driver who has carried the weight of expectation throughout 2025, this was uncharacteristic. And at this stage of the championship, uncharacteristic errors can become defining ones. He cannot rely on Norris's having an off weekend every time. He cannot assume slow pit stops will come to his rescue. Even McLaren team principal Andrea Stella was quick to calm the narrative. Weekends like this can happen in a season. So far, Oscar has been the most solid driver in 2025. A one-off race can happen. These are often the moments where you learn the most. But the numbers are shifting. The gap between Piastri and Verstappen has dropped to 69 points. On paper, that may seem large. In reality, it's Max Verstappen. When opportunity appears, he doesn't hesitate. Monza upgrades appear to have transformed Red Bull's direction. The team has leaned heavily into driver feedback. The car looks more stable, more alive. Even Yuki Tsunoda delivered his strongest result yet in Red Bull colors with a P6 finish, a sign that something fundamental may have changed. And if Red Bull has truly solved its balance issues, then this is no longer just a McLaren duel. For Piastri, the message is simple. The margin is real, but it's fragile. One more weekend like Baku, and the championship narrative could shift completely. Because in Formula One, pressure doesn't knock politely. As Red Bull gathers momentum, Andrea Stella made one thing clear. This fight is far from over. Red Bull is a very serious contender to win races and a very serious contender for the Drivers' Championship. And then came the question, Is Verstappen back in contention with 224 points still available? A firm yes. Because first and foremost, this is Max Verstappen, a four-time world champion, in a car that is getting faster. Stella didn't hesitate to underline the threat. There will be circuits where McLaren holds no clear advantage, tracks where the balance shifts. And whenever Verstappen is inside that top three, the mathematics of the championship tighten instantly. If Max wins a race, the swing between the two McLaren drivers shrinks dramatically. Instead of large point gains, it becomes a matter of 3 points here, 2 points there. Margins that barely move the needle. Yes, Verstappen would need more than the standard 8 or 10-point gain to truly erase the deficit, but that's not the only danger. His presence forces Oscar Piastri and Lando Norris to race each other harder. And when teammates are forced into direct combat, the risk multiplies. A late braking move, a defensive squeeze, a misjudged overtake, a DNF. Suddenly, the championship complexion changes overnight. Then there are the so-called papaya rolls, McLaren's philosophy of controlled competition, of fairness.